to the Wild Grace podcast. We have such a special treat today for the episode. We get to know Kenzie more. We get to know her story and how she found Jesus, how Jesus found her,
Yeah.
and I'm so excited to dive in. But before we do, we're going to start this episode with a prayer, and then we'll get to know you a little bit more.
Thank you.
So let's pray. Lord Jesus, thank you so much for this opportunity we have to get to know Kenzie, Lord, and get to see your hand in her life. Lord, we ask for your presence to be here, for you to guide this conversation and to help Kenzie feel loved and seen and work through her that maybe her sharing her story might reach who you need to reach, Lord. And we're so grateful for you in our life and for you showing us your hand, Lord. And we say these things in your mighty name.
And thank you, Natalie. I love that we do that. It just feels good. Okay, I guess I'll just dive in. So my story is so recent as of this podcast. It's the end of 2025 and
What a wild year.
yeah, understatement. Very wild, unexpected year. But to go way back to the beginning, I was born and raised in the LDS Church, so the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as Mormons. Yeah, born and raised, and I was the perfect child. I was the oldest, but I was very obedient, like very
First child energy.
first child, and just like I kept all the rules. So that is a big part of my story though, because it was hard to break away from that later on. Anyway, I did all the things, right? I was baptized and when I was 8, and I did live in Utah. I've lived here for like over 20 years now. So I would say I was pretty much raised here for sure. And I always had questions. Like, as even a young girl, I did have questions about things like things about women actually. Or I'd be like, wait, why do girls not have the priesthood, or why this? And it wasn't even just church, it was kind of like just cultural and world, like why are men always in charge? And polygamy, I was like, what? Why did God command that, and because the church practiced polygamy in the beginning.
And you're like,
And
it
so
will make sense someday.
yeah. So these were things that were always shelved, right? And that is a common phrase in like LDS culture. Like, we literally put things on a back shelf because we don't understand them. We don't have an answer for them. And so it's left there, right? So I had a lot of things on that shelf, but I was very devout, like the church is true, and lived my life. I mean, when I say I followed rules, Natalie, I was like to the T.
Yeah.
And I look back and I'm like, that was actually unhealthy.
Well, I
But
get it. It becomes your whole identity.
oh, completely.
Like who you are. I'm a Mormon. Like,
Yeah.
this is the one and only true way.
And that's how I knew myself, was like Mackenzie, the obedient, like kind of perfect one. Obviously I made mistakes, but I really strove for perfection, and even developed like an OCD around it, but I didn't realize that until way later, right? And when I'm in therapy. But really, and so I got, when I say I did all the things, I got married in the temple. I very young.
How old were you?
Yeah. I hate saying
Oh.
this. I feel so like
Just young. We can leave it at that.
no, it's okay. Like, I graduated high school when I was 17, and I did go to BYU, but I was married by the time I was 18. I was married when I was still 18, and then
I feel like that's really common around here.
it is common. It wasn't a big deal back then. Like, well, even right now, right? But back then I was like, oh yeah, no, this makes sense. And because I had met my husband Taft, and he was a returned missionary. Yeah, and we got married, and I was pregnant at 19 with our first baby back, and went from there. We lived our life. Everything seemed to be going good, and we were very, just devout, practicing members of the church, super involved. And yeah, on the same page and everything. And like I said, things seem to be going good. And then in 2018 and 2019, I had some major injuries, which
Oh,
at this point I had started my own like my Instagram.
yeah. What kinda
And
injuries?
yeah, so I was really into fitness and yoga, which I still am, but completely like unrelated. I had a torn meniscus in my left knee, and I had and then 2 months later I slipped on ice
No.
and hurt my shoulder
Oh
and literally had to get surgery back to back.
oh,
Like,
and those are intense.
no, they are. Like my knee was a fairly simple surgery because it was a meniscus like
Mhm.
trim. Um, but my shoulder surgery was a very major, like, I mean, it was still scope, but they cut a tendon and reattached it to a bone. Like, it was so hard because it was just really hard.
Yeah.
And I definitely started developing anxiety, at that time because I kind of had an identity crisis of my own of like, whoa, I'm fitness and yoga. I'm Yogo Skins on Instagram. I was hosting a retreat in Costa Rica, and it was like kind of all falling apart. And yeah, it was just a hard time. But it's an important part of my story because that was when I really developed an like anxiety and OCD and just fear around everything, and like I'm gonna get hurt again, and just but that fear doesn't just stay to like fear of injuries. It literally just leaked into my whole life. And I had never experienced that before, and that was really hard. And, that was 2019, and then 2020 happened, and 2020 was a pivotal and awful year for the world,
Yeah.
right? Like, it was, COVID,
Mhm.
but interestingly, at the beginning of 2020 was actually when I had my first big, like, "Okay, something is amiss." And that was when I saw The Chosen, like the
Oh.
TV series The
Oh, I
Chosen with
love The Chosen.
Jesus.
Yes.
Oh, I
So
love
good.
that show. I think they'd like come out in 2019,
Mm.
and I hadn't seen it. And then I started watching it in 2020, and it just changed my entire perspective of Jesus. Like, I remember watching it and being blown away and being like, where has this Jesus been all my life? Like,
Depicted so different.
so different. I was like,
Mhm.
how? Because this was the first big question. I had never really questioned the church, right?
Yeah.
I had never allowed myself to really question it because
Right.
it was the one true church.
Right.
And but The Chosen, I was like, how something is wrong here, because how did I grow up in this Christian church, you know, this whole time and never been shown that this is who Jesus is? Like, when I watched this show, it was just this like feeling of like, this is him.
Is peace.
This
Whoa.
Yeah, and like this is him laughing and joking, and he's real, and just the warmth. Like, I love Jonathan Rumi.
Oh, he's so good.
He's so great. And so that was my first like, where did the church drop the ball on this? Like,
Yeah.
on how did I
If this is the
not
one true
know?
church, like, why am I discovering this?
Yeah, like it, and this wasn't produced by the LDS Church, right? Like, that was
Mhm.
another big thing. Like, this Mormons didn't produce this show. And so yeah, that was just kind of the first like, hmm. And then COVID happened. And, at this point, I'm very, like, patriotic, conservative. I wasn't scared to kinda be bold on my Instagram in that way. Like, I love our country, I
I
love our
remember that.
freedom. And, when COVID happened, the LDS Church, like, the leaders, the prophet, they were really, like, supportive of sorry, I'm like, what do I sorry, let's just pause. We're gonna say cut and
Okay.
take, okay? Um, how do I usually word this? Encouraged. Okay. All right.
Okay. Take 2.
When COVID happened, the way that LDS Church like encouraged compliance with like wearing masks, and their encouragement of getting the vaccine, and then
Yeah, like,
social distancing, and even
even
like
pictures of the prophet getting the vaccine.
yeah, yeah, and even more like their participation in the segregation of like the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated. Like you weren't allowed to go on a temple square or like in the tabernacle, like unless you were vaccinated. Like these things really bothered me. And I know that they bothered a lot of people in the
Mhm.
church. Like this was a big issue. And I, at that point, for me personally, I lost all trust in the leaders for the first time ever in my life, which was a really big deal because up until this point, I was so, letter of the law, like we don't criticize the leaders of the church. What the prophet says comes directly from God. And at this point, I was like, no.
Wow.
For the first time, I thought, okay, not everything that comes out of a prophet's mouth is from God. They are
Yeah.
not just extensions of God. Like he would not do this. He would not say this. Like that was the first time where I could actually like disconnect
Yeah.
what the prophet says from God.
Yeah. Wow.
And again, big deal.
Yeah, culturally, how we're raised, huge
Mhm.
deal.
Big deal. And but again, I kind of had to shelf it, right? So it was like I had this happen, but then I was like, "Okay, but what does that really mean? I have to just kind of like get over it." And
Yeah.
so I did, and honestly, the next few months were crazy because then I lost my dad. And actually so it went like COVID and then summer, and I got pretty bold about my beliefs during like the whole George Floyd thing
Mm.
and Black Lives Matter. I got really bold on my Instagram and I actually lost like all my sponsorships. I had stuff go viral. I felt very threatened. So now my anxiety was super high because I was very fearful. I was like scared because people hated me. And then literally weeks later, I lost my dad in
Kenzie,
a
I'm so sorry.
thank you, Natalie, in a just a mountain bike accident. So it was very sudden, right?
Oh,
And I had never lost anyone close to me. I had never, not even like a friend, not even a grandparent. And so and my dad was close. Like we were close as a little family. I'm one of three, and we all lived within, 15 minutes of each other. My dad, I saw him all the time, and he hung out with my kids all the time. And, we had just talked to him earlier that day, like hours before. And then all of a sudden, I get this call and it's like, dad died. And it's like, what? And I was definitely went into shock. And super hard time. Definitely like drowning in grief for a year for
so
sure.
shocking.
Oh,
And
shocking. It was awful. That was the first viewing I'd ever been to was my own dad's. I hated it. I'll never go to another viewing. The first funeral I'd ever been to, that was my dad's, and I was like, the funeral is beautiful. But anyway, I understand grief and loss now, but I did know that my dad was with Jesus. And I knew that. And so it's definitely still a lot of I look back, and even though it was a very tragic, hard time for me and my family, there were so many miracles, so many ways that, my dad let us know he was there, and
wow.
ways that I saw God in my life.
Yeah.
Um
When God's
and
like, I'm
I'm
here
still here, yeah,
through the pain.
through the pain.
Mhm.
And The Chosen was actually a huge part of me getting through that because in fact the very night I lost my dad, cuz you don't go to sleep. And I'm sure, as like experiencing losing Dave's brother and stuff. And
Yeah, I just want to say, like, I'm like on the verge of tears. I just feel for you, and I'm so sorry that
oh,
you
thank
went through
you.
that. It's so hard.
Thank you, Natalie. You're so
Mhm.
sweet. I love you. I watched The Chosen. I was like, I just need Jesus. So even at that moment, I was like, I just need Jesus. I'm gonna watch him on The Chosen. And I just stayed up the entire night and just watched episode
Really?
after episode of The Chosen. And
Mm.
that really carried me through. So that was 2020. The next year, it's interesting because I was really deep in grief for a whole year, and actually my anxiety took a back seat to it. And then when I came out of like this first year, not that I like, oh, now I'm over my dad. It wasn't like that at all. But out of this first initial year of grief, my anxiety just came back with a vengeance. I was so scared of everything. I lived in fear every day. I was so scared of death. And at this point too, in 2019, I had started therapy
Yeah.
because of my injuries. And I went on and off, but after I lost my dad, I started going really regularly. So that was helpful.
And I just wanna say, sorry to
No,
pause,
no,
but,
you're
like,
great.
with grief and, like, losing somebody close in your family, when people are like, "How do you get over it?" or whatnot, you
Yeah.
don't.
You don't get over it. It's something you
You
learn
learn
how
to
to
live with.
Yep,
Yeah.
you learn how to carry it for
Mhm.
sure. Um So my anxieties and my fears were all around death and being like a sudden thing, right?
Mhm.
Which like
Takes you off guard because that's what you
yeah, that's
experienced.
exactly what I experienced. It was very traumatic. And so it was a really dark time. Oh, I like can't express enough, like literally every moment of the day, like anything my kids did or said or whatever is like a premonition to death. And so it was an awful way to live. And I also look back and I realized too that like I was scared of what God would do next.
That, like, God was doing you.
That is how I perceived it because I I was taught this is similar to something you said in your story was that I was like, okay, God won't ever give me more than I can handle, and God, I'm here to be tested, right? Like
Mm.
my mortal life is to be tested. God is going to give me trials to make me stronger.
He's doing it to
Yes,
you.
so that's what it always felt like.
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Oh my gosh, that was my dad. And
God's doing this to me. What is he gonna throw at
what
me
is he gonna
next?
do next? Like,
Yeah.
is it going to be one of my kids?" Like, it was just this really scary.
So scary.
It was scary, and, I developed insomnia, because of the anxiety, so then I wasn't sleeping,
On top of being a busy mom. You're
on top of
already
being a busy mom. So, yeah, at this point, I had 3 young kids, and from 2019, I guess, from to 2025. So, over the course of 4 years, I ended up having 4 surgeries and 2 pregnancies.
that's a lot,
And
physically and mentally.
yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I did my math wrong. I'm actually really bad at math. From 2018 to like
I
20,
got
yeah.
you.
It
Yeah.
was like over 6 years, but I had 4 pregnancies. 4. Okay. Take 2. Okay. Cut. Take 2. From 18 to 2025, over, 6 years, I had 4 surgeries and 2 pregnancies. I was literally recovering from something every year, which was so hard for me. I was so worn down because it was physically, I was not being able to have an outlet like and work out the way I wanted to, the way I loved. I couldn't really do my like work that I loved too, which was sharing fitness and yoga on my social
Right.
media,
And
on my
that was
app.
identity
That
to
was
you.
part of my identity. My pregnancies, my mainly in 2022 was actually a bright light in my life because I was so just like debilitated with anxiety, but her birth, which we can do another talk about birth, but her pregnancy and birth really gave me some power and strength and a kind of a break from anxiety because that was the first time I pursued a like very holistic natural pregnancy,
Mm.
very I planned a home birth. Like that
Yeah.
was a really big deal because my other 3 had been in the hospital, like very routine epidurals. And I was able to just take that power and like educate myself and eradicate fear from it and be like, even though I know I can't control my birth, like I educated myself. I had my midwives, like I did all the things where I wasn't pursuing it in anxiety. And so it was very
Oh,
empowering.
yeah, I was gonna say empowering. I love that.
Yeah, and it was and also I included God in it still, like
Yeah.
so much, and relied on him to be like, "Hey, help me like intuitively know what I should do, what I shouldn't," and just I was able to rely on him and myself like and realize that, birth wasn't scary and like just
Perfectly designed.
yeah,
Yeah.
perfectly designed and like that God meant this to be this beautiful transformative thing. And so that was a very bright spot in a dark time
Mm.
where I had a lovely a
Mhm.
lovely pregnancy. I love being
Mhm.
pregnant. But yeah, I had a great birth and everything. We can talk about that later, but coming out of that, a year later I had another surgery because I tore my meniscus in my other knee. And so I was like, "Oh, like this I just can't get a break."
Yeah.
Um and it was just really hard. I was really worn down. I felt it. I mean, I hadn't slept. You literally as a mom get to a point where you're like, I haven't slept in years.
Right.
And I
What is, like,
what is sleep? And I legitimately because I did have anxiety and my anxiety ended up, coming back after I had mainly because I was back to sleep deprivation with a newborn. and, it was over, right? Like, the pregnancy and birth was over, and so now I'm just kinda, like, back to real life, and, so my anxiety came back, unfortunately. I kept going to therapy, but definitely still had these fears of, like, what's God gonna do next? Who's gonna die? What bad thing is gonna happen? Like, it was just something bad was around every corner,
Mm.
and I'm trying to get through that, but a couple other things that happened that were really big in my, like, story and my development of just my questions
Yeah.
about religion. Because at this point, I'm still super active, devout member, and
Like going to church every
going to
week,
church every
have
week.
callings.
I have callings. We're teachers in the youth and, just, yeah, really involved with our
Temple
families.
recommended.
Temple,
Yep.
yep. And I saw the movie Jesus Revolution.
Oh, I love
I know. I was like, Jonathan Rumi, of
that.
course I'm going to see this movie. And I loved it. I loved that movie. And it
So
was
good.
interesting because still watched it with a very, like, LDS perspective of, um, like, oh, they're not Mormon. Cause the whole premise of the movie is it's based on a true story where, what's his name? Lonnie, this guy named Lonnie from the 70s, like, literally led a Jesus movement. It's during this hippie era, and Jesus literally saved all these people, all these young people.
Mhm.
Like, it was hippies turning from drugs to Jesus,
Yeah.
which is why it was called a Jesus Revolution. But it was outside of the LDS church. Like, this was, I don't even remember if he was Baptist or non-denominational or something, but it
Yeah.
was another Christian pastor. And, like, anyway, it just gave me this different perspective of, like, I walked away being like, oh, that is so cool. Like, God uses other people, like, not just LDS people, right? Like, you cannot be LDS and God is still going to use you to bring people to him.
Mm.
And like, there were miracles in the movie that they portrayed, and, that was like, I remember kind of feeling uncomfortable in the theater because I was
Like,
like,
wait, how are they doing that when that's not
yeah,
like the
that's not the
proper
priesthood, right?
authority?
Like, that's
Yeah.
not the priesthood. He just healed someone by, like, yelling, like, "You're healed." And I had felt uncomfortable because, at least in my upbringing, you tell me if it's the same
Yeah.
for you,
Mhm.
that was, like, kind of looked down on. Like,
Right. Everything was so sacred and like very formal.
yeah, and, like,
And
well, was that the power of God, or was that,
yeah,
like, a
exactly.
dark power? Like,
Ooh,
that's
yeah.
what I felt,
Mm.
and so, anyway, that was an interesting thing because I did leave that movie thinking, "You know what? God uses other people." Like, you do not have to be LDS. Like, there is a lot of truth, and they had whatever power they had, that was real too because it brought people to Jesus. Like,
Right.
what could be wrong with that?
Right. Not just shutting down somebody else's experience or
Yeah.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was good. I really loved that movie, and it was a big step for me mentally.
Mm.
And then, that same year, for the first time, I got familiar with what Lent was. I had no idea what Lent was.
Oh, I didn't know. All growing up, said
Yeah,
the
right?
same
And
thing.
I was, like, embarrassed because I had met it was my Christian friend, and it was Holy Week, and she was like, "Yeah, we started Lent, and we're doing Palm Sunday." I'm like, "What's that?" And she was like, what do you mean? What's that? Like, every other Christian church is so
Yeah.
familiar with it.
And if you don't know, like we didn't know,
No. Yeah.
Lent is like the 40 days leading up to Holy Week, which Holy Week is the week before Easter of the events leading up to when Jesus was crucified.
Yep.
And so it's
And
like,
Resurrection Sunday.
yep. Mhm.
Yeah. So anyway, so I was like, you know what? I want to do Lent. And I, like, fasted from sugar for 40 days because you're supposed to fast from something.
Mhm.
And to what's the word, like, kind of in memory of Jesus's fast for 40
Oh,
days and
yeah.
40 nights
Uh-huh. To give
before his
something.
ministry.
Yep.
And I was like, "Okay, during this, I'm also going to listen to the Hallow app." Because Jonathan Rumi, again, was on the Hallow app, but it was this Catholic app.
Mm.
And so that was me kind of stepping again outside of this.
Mormon literature.
Yeah, like, stepping out of my comfort zone, being like, I'm gonna listen to something from another church. Yeah, because it was just, they were like, we're just gonna have a little devotionals, like, 5 minutes every day. And I loved it. It was so different. It was kind of like blending prayer and meditation with a devotional. And it just really gave me some really focused time with Jesus, and the stories they shared every day were just so cool. And there was stories of Jesus saving people and coming into their lives, and so uplifting, and Jesus in dark places, and I loved listening to it. It was very fulfilling.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And so that was also a big part, because I'm like, okay, I got a lot out of this, and it wasn't from my church, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so there was that. And then at that point, it's like 2023, and I got pregnant with my 5th baby son, and that was an unexpected pregnancy, which, I hadn't really experienced up until that point, and, I was just so not ready. I was so not ready for
Yeah.
that, and I feel like that's not talked about enough, that when you have an unexpected pregnancy, that can be so hard.
Right. Well, you're just, like, gearing yourself up. You know how much goes into it. Pregnancy,
Yeah.
postpartum, like, it's a lot.
And that was the year that I was like, "Okay, I'm not recovering from a surgery. I'm getting back into, like, running and stuff," because I had been recovering from a surgery, and I had just started, like, running again, and then I was pregnant. And I was like, "Oh, no," and
Oh.
I had been doing all the things, like, to
Mhm.
not be pregnant, and so it was just really hard for me mentally, and I'd also been, again, I'm still really dealing with anxiety and insomnia. I'm not sleeping. I had just finally, like, it had been so hard for me to finally be like, "Okay, I think I might need medication to help me sleep at this point." And then I was pregnant. And in early pregnancy, you have to be so careful, like, not, and I mean, I had never taken medication in my life. Like, I'm so anti-medicine. I
Yeah.
don't even like ibuprofen. So I was like, shoot, okay, I guess I can't do that. So I kind of went on hold for the first, like, trimester.
Yeah.
And my insomnia got so much worse,
Oh.
because then it turned into pregnancy insomnia, which is a thing. And so that pregnancy was really hard. Obviously, as I got further along, I started enjoying my pregnancy again, and, like, this is what it is, and started planning another home birth,
Mhm.
getting excited, and her birth was great. It was amazing. It was a beautiful summer home birth, and I love
Oh,
her.
I love your home
Oh,
births.
thank you. We have to talk about it.
I know.
But my postpartum with Sloan, which would have been early fall, was when I really started going into a dark place.
Mhm.
Like, I had thought, I'd hit some really hard, like, low lows, which I had, in the last few years leading up to that, but it got really hard. Because I think just mentally and physically, I was just completely worn down. I was literally, again, recovering from something every year for the last 6 years. Not being able to do the things I loved, 5 kids.
The older ones have such different needs than your baby.
Yep, which I wasn't expecting even when I had Maylee. That was a huge, like, that was hard. I hadn't been expecting that, but, like, okay, I have my 3 older kids, but I am super consumed with the baby. And because I had a 5-year gap between Lola and Maylee, and then, yeah, I mean, there's good things about it, but then there were hard things like that, and I was not sleeping, and I was still very fearful of things, and just so tired, and, like, I started getting really frustrated with God. And all of my questions around women, like, from when I was young, and when I was a young woman, and then, just young adult, like, all of it just came crashing in, like, with a vengeance. It came back. It's like, we're not living on the shelf anymore.
An accumulation of everything.
Yeah, accumulation of everything, because I feel very alone in it. Like,
Mm.
it's Taft wasn't experiencing the things I was experiencing, right? He
Yeah.
did not have to go through the things I was. In my mind, I'm like, he did not understand the level of sacrifice that I did as a woman, and he wouldn't ever. Like, I just felt this, and that, not just him, like, all men, right? Like, I'm giving up my body 5 times, for this pregnancy, and then I have to recover from that. And on top of that, I'm recovering from surgeries, and I don't sleep, and, like,
Oh,
my mental health is suffering because of it, and then I'm not as a good mom, and, like, it's just all the
oh,
dominoes, right?
so hard.
And I know so many, like, women everywhere can relate with this.
Yes.
So, but I was like, "Why? Okay, God, you hate women. Like, why do you hate women?"
Yeah,
And, which is a hard question
that
to
is.
ask. Like, that's pretty dark to feel that way. And but I let myself ask it. And I was like, because God, you're so powerful. Like, what you have the power. You could have changed things in the very beginning. Like, you could have changed things with Eve or just the whole thing, because from the beginning of time historically, and it's not just like, I'm not even saying within just the church. I'm saying the world.
Yeah.
Historically, women have been they've always been seen as inferior, and they've been used and objectified and abused and not given the same rights, and, like, it's been really frustrating. And then on top of that, it's like, okay, but physically, we're the only ones that can get pregnant and have babies and then breastfeed and, like, all these things, and it's a lot. We do a lot. And
Yeah, it is a lot. Women are amazing.
yeah, women are amazing. I hope all the women out there hear that from me. But I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna stop. Well, I forgot an important part. I would spend all night begging God to let me sleep. I'd be like, God, please, like, answer my prayer. Like, please help me sleep, help Sloan sleep, like something. I need some sort of like sign that you're listening, please. And I felt like there was just radio silence on the other side of that. And so that is why I was like, I feel so abandoned.
Yeah, lonely.
Lonely, yeah. So at that point I was like, you know what? I don't know what I believe in. I did think there was a God. I never was like, there's not a God. I think because just I really had experienced God still in my religious upbringing. I knew that there was an afterlife. I knew my dad was on the other side. Like, and so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stop praying to Heavenly Father, who in the Mormon church is a man, like he was once a mortal man who became a god. And so I'm like, I'm going to stop praying to Heavenly Father, because I don't know who God really is, but I really believe in Jesus. Like, I had an unwavering faith in Jesus, and I really think The Chosen like helped me with that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I know Jesus is real, but I'm going to actually try praying to a Heavenly Mother first. Which yeah,
in
go ahead.
Mormon, like, theology is because God the Fathers and, was once like us, became God, and, like, we are their literal children, and so
Mhm.
there is a Heavenly Mother, but it's too sacred to talk about, so it's never mentioned anywhere, it's just, like, talk.
It's, like, just barely mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And so it's like, okay, my religion had given me Heavenly Mother at the same time as they, like, take her away. That's what I would always say, because it was like, we know we must have a Heavenly Mother, but we can't pray to her. And so this was something that I was like, you know what? I'm me in my rebellious, like, stage of, like, I don't know if there's a God. I'm gonna pray to Heavenly Mother, because if there was ever a time when I could hear from her, I think it would be right now. When, as a woman, I'm feeling so down and depressed and alone. As a mother, for me, like, if I were Heavenly Mother, there would be nothing that would keep me from wanting a relationship with my daughter. And so I'm like, she'll reach out, or I'll feel something. And I got really into, like, I started writing these really like pretty prayers to her, and like, I'm like reaching out for this feminine divine energy or something. And I did that, and I really it didn't get me anywhere. I didn't feel anything. And I was a little let down. I wasn't like super surprised, but I was let down. So I was like, okay. And I had started talking to you, I think, at this point. Yeah, definitely. I had. And you had mentioned in your story, and I'll come back to you in a minute, but like, you had mentioned just praying to Jesus. And I was like, I'm going to just pray to Jesus. I had never done that before, because we're told not to
Right.
in the Mormon church. And so, and I had asked before. I had been like, why can't we pray to Jesus? And the answer was always more of like a letter of the law thing. It was like, well, that's just not what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, this is the structure of
This
it.
is the structure of the prayer. You're supposed to pray through him, but not to him. And I was like, yeah, I don't think there's going to be anything wrong.
Like, wait, how do I have a relationship with him if I can't talk to him?
Yeah, well, and the other thing too was in the Hallow app, when I had done Lent, they would pray to Jesus sometimes.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love that.
Right, well, Catholic, they in, the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, they're praying all 3,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, and so I was like, yeah, I just can't see anything wrong with me praying to Jesus, like, I just can't. So I did. And I just said, well, first of all, I wanted to pray to him because I was like, look, I don't know about God. I don't know about Heavenly Father. I don't know about Heavenly Mother. Jesus, I know you're real. And I also know that you loved women.
Mm.
And I believe in the crucifixion. Like, I believe in the atonement of Jesus Christ. And I believe that he really did feel everything that we all felt. Like, he went through everything with us on the cross. And which makes him the only male, the only man in the universe that actually understands how a woman feels.
Right.
And I held on to that. So I was like, even though you're a guy,
Yeah. I need that feminine connection.
I
You know how
know
I
you
feel.
know. Yeah, I know you know. And just the way he lived his life, the little that I knew, because I hadn't read the four gospels yet,
Yeah.
but like he always chose women first and
Mm.
he loved them and the way he treated them. So I'm like, I'm going to go straight to him. And I did. And so I remember just being like, Jesus, I don't really know how to reach you, but I need you. Like, please show up in my life. I don't know what I believe right now. And I want to know the truth and just like help me because felt like I was falling apart. Like literally, mentally, I was like not stable. I was constantly, scared and anxiety and
It's crumbling.
grumbling.
Yeah.
And then physically, I couldn't recover from anything. I was like always, sick and I'm breastfeeding while I'm trying to recover from surgeries. And it's like just everything, literally
Yeah.
just
That's a lot.
a lot,
Mhm.
a lot. And from there, ever since that, and this would have been like winter 2024 now. He gave me what I call breadcrumbs. He started putting things in my life that were random, but not random. And it was very apparent that they were from him. And it actually started, I would say, mainly with a book that my mom and sister had been like, oh, this was an awesome podcast with this guy named John Burke. He is an expert on near-death experiences, which I had been familiar with because I studied near-death experiences right after my dad passed.
Oh.
And because they brought me comfort, like
Yeah.
there's another world and it's like beautiful. But I had really only studied them within Mormon literature.
Yeah.
And it was like fairly limited. And so anyway, I found this book called Imagine the God of Heaven by John Burke. And it changed my life
Mm.
because it confirmed to me that Jesus was so much better than I could ever have imagined. People had encounters with Jesus and the spirit world, like it was just amazing, like indescribable beauty and peace and love and happiness. And I came away from that with a few things. Like, first of all, okay, Jesus is amazing. He's so cool. Like, he's
Yeah.
so cool.
So cool.
And also, he was not there, like, judging these people who were, they had passed. Now they did go back, right? That's why it was a near death experience because they did come back. But the love they described, like, he was not on the other side with his arms folded and like kind of shaking his head and being like,
I'm so disappointed.
yeah, like you did all these things really good, but you just didn't cut it kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I felt like that's kind of what my religious upbringing had taught me because it was so intense on like doing all the things right.
Yeah.
And if you didn't, then you weren't doing what God wanted you to.
Mm.
And then the third really big thing that I walked away with was that it was interesting to me that no one, and this guy has studied near death experiences for like 40 years
Really?
from all over the
What?
world.
That's
Yes.
cool.
He actually was an atheist and he's like, I'm going to study near death experiences to prove there isn't a God.
Oh my
And he
goodness.
totally converted into Christianity because everyone described the spirit world the same.
Wow.
And people had encounters with Jesus, even people who had never heard of Jesus, like from the Middle East, were seeing Jesus Christ and coming back and being like, I'm Christian.
Wow.
It was pretty cool. His story's cool. But, all ages, all backgrounds of people, and all these near-death experiences, and not one person saw God. Not God. Like, no one came face to face with God. They
Oh.
would encounter Jesus, but they would all say, like, I could feel that there was another presence, like maybe coming from, they would describe like the center of the holy city or the center of the universe. And it was just immense love and light and warmth,
Mhm.
but no one ever saw God face to face. It was
Yeah.
only ever Jesus. And that was really significant for me because we were taught that Joseph Smith,
Saw
the
God.
founder of the church, saw God the Father and Jesus, right?
Mhm.
And that was a big deal for me because I was like, wait a second, like that's
Why isn't anyone else?
yeah, and that is not something that John Burke, like the author, that is not something he focused on. That is something I took
You
away.
just observed.
I observed, and I obviously think that Jesus was like, "Hey, pay attention to
Here's
this,"
a breadcrumb.
the breadcrumbs. And so from there, that is when you stepped into my life in a big way.
God crossed our paths.
Yep,
Mhm.
because at this point, Natalie it's funny because Natalie had been following my Instagram for a while, and so she, like, knew who I was, and then I
She
started
was the fitness influencer operation.
oh, and so we were pregnant around the same time
Mhm.
with what? No, with Sloan. It was my
Yeah.
last pregnancy. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
with Sloan and her baby Ray, and so anyway, we just had some
We both love
connections.
home births,
Yep,
lots in common.
and I knew you lived near, but I didn't know how close.
Yes.
She ended up living like 5 minutes from me, and I didn't even know, but
So wild.
yeah, I started following you because I loved your content, and you were not like you weren't like, in your face like, "Oh, I left the Mormon church." You were just I could tell that you had though, and I loved the way you would talk about Jesus on your
Mhm.
stories. Had messaged you and I was like, "I would love your relationship with Jesus." Like
Mm.
I want that. I felt this like I want this vibe. Whatever she has going here, I want, and I was in a place where I was more open to it because I was like, I don't know what I believe, right? And so that was when I asked your story and you told me, and we had met up a couple times, like in person. So we had met, and you were such an important part of my story. And like, you are a breadcrumb that Jesus gave me because at this point I felt very isolated. I didn't really have anyone to talk to about this whole journey that I was going on, that I was questioning the everything. I was questioning like the foundation of the church I was born and raised to believe was the one true church.
Right. And I can definitely relate. It's a very lonely, confusing place to be in.
Well, yeah, and it's scary. Like
Mhm.
it's hard because it's like once you open that can, you can't unopen it.
You can't unsee it.
You can't unsee it, you can't unknow it, and so things are like, "Wait a sec, if I question this, then I have to question everything," and that's why
Yeah.
it can feel so scary, and I actually have a lot of empathy for members who have questions, but are so, like, adverse to following them or pursuing them
Yeah.
because it's like they call it a slippery slope, right? It's
Mhm.
scary, but talking to you was so helpful because you could validate my experience. I could come to you and be like, I even feel guilt like just questioning. Like I
Yeah.
feel guilt thinking this or, not believing that. And I'm like, we have this whole narrative of like, if you feel confused, that's of the devil,
Right.
right? Like
Mhm.
confusion isn't of God. And so does that mean I'm on the wrong path? But wait, but Jesus, like, he gave me this podcast to listen to and he gave me this book to read. And like I felt so close to him. And so it's like so
Oh,
confusing.
yeah.
It's just like so contradictory and
Mhm.
so hard. So anyway, I had decided, so I'm talking to you, which is so nice and helpful. Reading these books, I'm like listening to some podcasts. I'm still going to therapy and like trying to talk all this through. And I had made a decision. I was like, you know what? I'm going to avoid church history because I know from other people, like including you,
Mhm.
I know that church history can be sometimes the solo reason, like the
It makes people really angry.
yeah, and
Mhm.
it can be the
Right,
reason people leave.
rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
But yeah, I
Yeah, and I
understand.
was like, "Okay, I'm not gonna go down the church history rabbit hole because I want to come up with like I want to develop my own opinions and like thoughts on all these different topics." Like I was journaling. Like I want to figure out what I believe without the history. I just want to like me and Jesus. He's going to keep giving me breadcrumbs. He's going to keep giving me like teaching me in the little ways that he is. And I'll save that for last because I don't want it to be just because of history.
Yeah.
And for me, that was really beneficial. Like, I'm really glad I did it that way
Mhm.
because it made my, like, conversion to Jesus and my just Christianity much more meaningful. I didn't feel like it was tainted by church history,
Mm.
but I think things would come up, and I know I'm sure you're remembering, like, because things would just come up, and I'd be like, "Wait a second, I didn't know that." Uh, that was definitely, like, frustrating, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
To learn things that what were kept from us, not
Yeah.
told, portrayed in a different way, lied about. But at this point, I was still trying to make peace.
Mm.
I was like, I just need to make peace with these things that I disagree with in the church because I can't leave. Like at this point, it was not an option. It was still not an option to leave the church.
Right. Was this, after we had started our Bible study?
No,
Okay, this is before.
this is
Okay.
before. Yes. So this is before. So at this point, I finally had given myself permission, and you're gonna understand too and relate. I gave myself permission to like reach out to other friends who had left the church.
Mm.
And I knew that they had been like born and raised. Because I mean, we're in Utah.
Yeah.
And born and raised LDS, because up until this point, I didn't feel like I was allowed, right? I didn't feel like I could ask people their story of leaving.
Right.
That was a dangerous thing to do, right? It was something
Okay.
we were counseled not to do
Right.
because
Mhm.
you might lose your own testimony or,
You're
whatever.
placing yourself in something unholy place, and you have to be
Mhm.
careful.
You have to be careful, and so it was even hard for me to do that, like, the verbiage I'm using right now is, like,
It's hard
I
to talk about.
gave myself permission
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
to ask my friends, like,
Yeah.
ask some of these friends, like, "Hey, what was your experience?" And everyone had a different experience. Some things were similar, some things were different, and then I also talked to a couple people who I really respected that had stayed because I was like, "To be fair, I'll, talk to a couple people who are really rooted in the church and see what if they have anything to offer because if God wants me to stay, if Jesus wants me to stay in the church,
Mhm.
he's going to give me things that help me make peace
Yeah.
with these other things that I can't reconcile on my own.
Mhm.
One of those is like polygamy, right?
You're right.
And the more that I listen to other people, the more I realize and I will never forget I walked away from talking to someone and I was frustrated because I was like that didn't bring me any peace. Like what the heck?
Yeah.
And I
And it should.
literally yeah, and it should have. And I went on a walk and I was like or actually a bike ride. I think on a bike ride. And I was like, "Hey, Jesus, Dad, like, please join me on this bike ride." And I literally was talking to them like that, which was
Wow.
cool
Yeah.
and a little informal, right?
Yeah.
Compared to how we pray in the Mormon church. But it's like, I need you guys to walk with me. I'm super frustrated. I like, what was that? And what am I supposed to make of it? And I'll never forget this like voice in my head of like, their path is not your path.
Mm.
It's not your path. You're not going to get what you need from them.
Wow.
Like I'm only going to get what I need from Jesus.
Ooh,
And
good.
yeah, and that was really helpful for me because I could lay that to rest. Like, okay, no one else is going to like have the answers for me.
Mm.
And so at that point I would pray about certain things. Like there's so many topics
Yeah.
in the LDS like religion. I could like, okay, I'm going to pray about polygamy. I need an answer. That was a huge one because, I mean, for the sake of time, like the Mormon church teaches that God commanded it.
Yeah.
And that's why they had to practice it again in Joseph Smith's time. But there's so much like dishonest, like sketchy stuff that
Yeah.
went on with it that we as members are like told, hey, don't research it. And
Right.
you just don't understand. And
It
like,
was a different time.
yeah, like all these justifications and it never felt right with me. And so anyway, that was something that Jesus gave me a very clear answer to that like, hey, I never commanded that. That was of men. I have nothing to do with that. And I
Yeah.
was like, I knew it. So much peace there because I was like, I can let go of the anger with that because I had unplaced anger. I couldn't reconcile it when I was being told and believing that God himself commanded it.
Right.
I was like, okay, I guess I'll just talk to God about that when I die.
Right,
And
and it's gonna be part of the next life. Like, I have to be okay with it.
yes,
Uh-huh.
exactly. Yeah, like I
Uh-huh.
have to be okay with it. So anyway, I would just ask about certain things. I'd be like, okay, what about this? What about this? What about garments? What about the temple? What about tithing? I'd always get an answer. And it was never in a way I would expect. It was also not like, oh, I ask and I get answered immediately. It was like maybe I had to sit with that for a few days or it was a week later, whatever it was. Um, it came up in a conversation, like then it led me to this, and I'm like reading something for the first time about Freemasonry and like all
Yeah.
these things, right? And so little by little, church history did come up, like inevitably.
It was like the slow, more of those breadcrumbs.
The breadcrumbs, but I would always get an answer.
Wow.
And I would literally be able to be like, okay, I can lay that to rest. Like, thank you, Jesus, and just
And how you weren't getting
peace.
answers, and then now when you were talking to Jesus, you were getting answers.
I was getting the answers. Yes, it was amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah, and this is early 2025 now, so January of this year, January, February. And it was at this point when I had like I did do a little bit of church history research, but it was nice because I didn't get super sucked into it. Not that I blame anyone who goes down that rabbit hole, because they have every right to.
Mhm.
But I didn't feel like I needed to because I'd already learned that it wasn't true. And so I didn't really need the extra validation from it
Mm.
because I'd walked this with Jesus and he'd given me answers in his own ways.
Yeah.
And so that was really helpful for me because I was already at a really hard time in my life. Like, even though I'm going through all of this, like, I still was experiencing all the anxiety, insomnia. I'm now experiencing for the first time postpartum depression. And at this point, too, I had another knee injury. So I had been trying to recover from Sloane's pregnancy, and my knee, the same one I had just had surgery on like a year before, was giving me issues. So I still couldn't have like use exercise as my outlet.
Oh.
So just this deep, dark place and just all at the same time, right?
Mm.
And it was hard too because I couldn't share this with my husband because, he's not in that place, like as far as questioning the church and he's not experiencing the stuff I was as a woman, like as far as postpartum and the
Yeah.
sleep and everything. And um, but it was like early February February, that I decided officially that I could not stay in the church, which was a big decision because up until that point, I was trying to figure out how to stay
Ah.
and still be a practicing member because, I mean, my whole little family is in the church, like my husband and my kids, and not to mention all of our extended family and friends, and that's my community.
Right. I can imagine that was hard.
Yeah, it was really hard, and also, by the way, I'm off social media during this time
Yeah.
because thankfully I was smart enough to be like, "Yeah, I can't handle social
Need a
media
break.
right now. I need a break." So it was like the second break I had taken in the last couple of years, but it was interesting because I left the church, like, in my mind, I'm like, "Okay, I am not Mormon anymore. I am
Mhm.
just Christian. I'm just gonna focus on Jesus." And I felt this immense freedom, like this immense freedom and peace that I had never felt before. I had never felt more seen and loved by Jesus.
Oh.
And at the same time, I was in the darkest period of my life I had ever experienced.
Whoa.
As soon as I left, like it got way harder.
Right. The enemy's like,
Mhm.
hey.
But I feel like if I had still had a LDS mindset, I might have been like, "Oh, this is a sign like that I chose the wrong path. I need to go back." You
Oh,
know?
right.
But I didn't ever feel that way because I was like, "No, I've never known more. Like this is what I'm supposed to do and this is so true." Like I had just that freedom and just this weight lifted off of me
This relationship with Jesus of growing.
that I had
Right.
never had
Yeah.
before.
You're like, what is this?
Mhm. And so then I really had a mental breakdown. I call it my mental collapse. Everything got really, really, really hard, and I just didn't know what my future looked like. But I just kept turning to Jesus because I was like, "Hey, I know. I'm just gonna keep turning to you. Like, please help me." And it was during that time that I was like, "Hey, I want to read his words. I just want to focus on Jesus, nothing else. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John." And Lent was coming up because it started March 4th, I
Yeah.
think. Lent started March 4th, and we had been talking a lot up until that time now. And so we had developed a relationship. And I was like, "Natalie, for Lent this year, let's do a Bible study. Will you do it with me? Where we just read the four gospels, one chapter a day." You had found that awesome program, not program, what am I
Yeah,
trying to say?
uh,
Plan. It was a plan.
Bible plan it's through, the Bible Project, so they go over, like, cultural context.
Yeah, and it was a 90-day plan, 1 chapter each day. So obviously it would go past Lent, which is about 40 days, give or take, I think over 40. But we were like, we're gonna do it till Easter, right? And
Uh-huh.
so we did that. We started that. And even though my life was really hard, I also was able to Jesus gave me other ways to cope with like the anxiety and the insomnia, and like things started very slowly getting better for me. And but the Bible study that we started, we have the before Easter and then the after
Yeah.
because I remember being like, "Hey, this is so fun," but it was hard. I mean, we were so busy moms, like trying to do our Bible study. Like, "Hey, we have to read, the
Every
chapter
day,
every
read,
day."
and then we'd voice note each other.
Exactly. We were voice noting back and forth so that we could share what we learned um and like our thoughts. We were using Chat GPT. We started using Chat GPT as like just for historical, like cultural
Yeah,
background, and
to explain things, and it was such a great tool
it
along
really
with each
was.
chapter.
Yeah. And were we writing notes at that point? No, not till our second time, huh?
Yeah.
Anyway, it was amazing and we were making it happen. And like we were getting it done every day. Then Holy Week happened. And I had never consumed so much Jesus material.
Yeah.
You hadn't either, right?
No. And how God lined up our reading to Holy Week is the exact
It was insane. What were we in, like, Mark or
we were in Mark,
something?
yeah.
Yeah, so when the real Palm Sunday of, like, 2025 happened, it was Palm Sunday in Mark, and we were like, "What?"
Jesus,
Yes.
he's right here with us.
He lined it up, and it was so significant because then we were, like, reading, it was just everything was lining up at the same time. I had never had a Holy Week that was more meaningful, and then Resurrection Sunday was, like, just magical because I
Yeah,
felt like I was like, "I really understand the significance of this
yeah.
and who Jesus is," and it was life-changing, and when I really realized that it had completely changed my life was when I had had, like, for years, over a decade, I struggled with all these, like, grudges and negative feelings that I would have with, different people and situations, and I I could not figure out how to let those go on my own. And I would even pray, like, as a member of the church, I'm like, "Please help me learn how to let this go, like, I can't hold on to these, and I know I shouldn't be, and blah, blah, blah," and it was almost overnight that I realized, like, literally from one day to the next, that was gone. All of a sudden, I didn't have any of these negative feelings anymore, and
Wow.
it was the biggest weight lifted off of me, and I started pursuing these relationships that I had completely avoided, like, for the last 10 years. And I became a completely different person. Like, all of a sudden, I wasn't reading the Bible because I had to, because I was supposed to, or even because I was, like, doing this 90-day challenge, right? It was like, "No, I am craving this. Now I know what it means to
Experience.
feast on the
Yeah,
words of
you're
Christ."
experiencing that. It's like you hear those words, but until you experience it, it's like your
Yes.
soul is
Your
full.
soul. Yeah, I was like, "No, I made it happen, like, no matter what." I was like, "I have to have my Bible to study time," and looked forward to it every day, and it wasn't a chore anymore. It was something I had to have
Mhm.
because I wanted it. And all these negative feelings are gone. And then I'm like, I always consider myself like I was not a people person, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm a people person. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. I want to know your story. Like, how can I help you? Like,
What?
you're a stranger. Like, oh my gosh, I was never like that. I was not social
New
like that.
Kenzie has entered the room.
Yes, I was like, this is what it feels like to be born again. Oh my gosh, like this is what it feels like to have a
You're a
change of
new
heart.
creature.
Yes, and then I experienced like, okay, now I want to do all these things, not because I have to, not because I am supposed to. I just want to do them because I love Jesus. Like he saved me.
Wow.
And it was so amazing. Like and that's why you and I will say like that Bible study changed our life.
It was
Like
life-changing.
completely
Mhm.
pivotal. It's like before the Bible study and after the Bible study, right? And before Jesus and after, and I kind of have this funny saying. I want to put it on a shirt, like, sorry for anything I said or did before Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that was a different me. Um, no, I have never been happier. And the freedom that I have experienced is I just want to share it with everyone. And now I have this fire that I didn't have before. I have this fire to share and to be bold for Jesus. And I want everyone to have this relationship with him. And, I know that Jesus meets us where we are, and that might be within organized religion. And for some people, that structure is going to work and it is going to bring out the best in them because, again, he's going to meet us where we are. For me, that's not where I couldn't do it inside of the LDS church. And I'm just so thankful that he showed up, you know?
Yeah.
And I really truly believe I had to be completely broken down like that. Like I had to have a broken heart so I could open up and like let him in. Because it's a huge humbling process, right? To be like, okay, I don't know everything and I'm ready to learn from you. Like
Yeah.
new slate,
Yeah.
right? And I want to just say that like it's definitely not easy. It's not like, oh, now my life is easy. Everything in my life is perfect. Like, it's not. I would actually say contrary to
Yeah.
that. Things get harder.
Right.
Things keep happening, right? But my entire perception and like the way I'm approaching things is different. I feel a strength that I've never had before.
It's like a strength and a joy even through the hard.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I feel there like I'm so much more patient and like I can get over things quickly. I'm slower to anger. Just all these things that I wasn't before, right? And like there literally is no other explanation other than Jesus. And so it's not like, okay, now all my problems are gone. It's no, Jesus is there with me and he's not doing anything to me. Like he is not giving me this trial to teach me a lesson and see if I come out of the other side stronger. He's with me in it.
Wow.
And I have never felt like I'm learning what surrender is. And I've never had this kind of a trust in God, even when things in my life are so like unknown. It's like, but I know it will all work out.
Mm.
And
Back.
he's got my back. Yeah. And I freaking love talking about him.
He's so
So
cool.
that's where we are today. And that's why we wanted to do a podcast
Yeah.
because we were like, this Bible study changed our life. Let's share it with everyone and let's just talk about Jesus.
And the podcast was born. Our
Yeah.
fire for Jesus, and doesn't make sense, but here we are. Jesus has led us
Oh,
here.
Jesus is so cool.
He's
Yeah,
so
no,
cool.
forever thankful, forever free in him and still healing, right? Like it's such a process. Like even now, things are still really hard to unravel when you build your entire identity on something and then walk away from that. That's actually really brave to do
Yeah.
and really hard. And but he's here with me in it and
Yeah.
yeah.
And anyone going through a transition of finding Jesus outside of organized religion, or if they had a similar background or upbringing as us, like being patient with yourself, that it does take time, and having grace for yourself. Like God's not in a hurry. He's right there with you.
Yeah.
And it's okay if you feel like you take one step forward, two steps back, like that
Mhm.
unraveling, that unwiring. It can be confusing and lonely, but God's with you.
Yeah, and you can never go wrong just asking Jesus for help. Like and telling him like, "Look, this is really confusing. I was taught this. I feel guilty for thinking this. Like, please help me." Just talk to Jesus about it because you know that whatever happens next is going to be from him and you can trust it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing,
Thank you. Thanks for
Kenzie.
being here with me, Natalie.
Oh, I love it. It's one of my like biggest honors in my life. Like I was able to walk alongside you and watch you walk with Jesus through this, and watch you find him. And that was so cool.
Well, Jesus gave you to me. You put you in my life.
He gave me you
Yes.
too, us both. It's cool to see how he works, of whose paths you cross in life.
Mhm.
I remember you shared that NDE book with me, Imagine
Yeah,
the God of
yeah.
Heaven. And I remember there was one story about that, how life isn't about the big moments, the like jobs, the house you live in, but it's about the people you're supposed to meet and the paths you're supposed to cross. And I just think about
Mhm.
my life of things going a way different way than I ever imagined. And I feel like the way our paths crossed, I'm like, wow, like that was so led by God.
So divinely led.
And it's just cool to look at the different parts of your life where you see God's hand.
Yeah.
So
No, it's so beautiful. Jesus is so cool.
he is so cool. Well, thank you so much again, Kenzie, for sharing and letting us
Yeah.
into a little corner of your life. But yeah, and thank you all for tuning in and listening and chatting with us. So thanks for being here. Just remember that Jesus is near, grace is real, and you are wildly loved. Until next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Yay!
Good job. That was beautiful.
That was because I think we right?